Welcome back for another episode of Strive for 25. Joel Farrell here, and looking forward to sharing with you our guest today.
Back to another episode of the Strive for 25 podcast. And this is Joel Farrell. And we're going to dig in today to the stair-step method and the power of real estate. And so this is going to be me going off on a tangent here. So hopefully this is helpful to some of those that aren't as well versed into real estate and what's possible. But again, when I say what's possible, this is one of the biggest reasons why I'm here doing this is, you talk about building a life with the power of choice, building a life to be able to do the things you want to do, the things you're passionate about, to go on vacation with your family, to go travel the world, to go do things on your own time. That's what this is all about. So building wealth is a method. It's a tool to be able to build a life with the power of choice. Because then at some point in time, if you can build your passive income to a high enough level to replace your day job, well, that's where you're talking about, generational wealth. We're talking about, financial freedom. And so real estate is one of the tools that some of the best out there use to be able to do this. I think there's other ways too, whether it be building a business, building a portfolio of stocks, et cetera. This is just one way. And, my own personal real estate journey is part of the reason that's inspired this channel to be alive in the first place. But when I say the power of real estate, one of the scenarios or questions I ask to try to illustrate very simply is this. If you've got $10,000 and you were going to put it into real estate or put it into the stock market and get a decent return on it, one of those numbers. And so to be more specific, the stock market has generated a return of give or take maybe 10% over 100 something years. So if I put $10,000 into the S&P 500 and I get a return in the first year for 10%, well, what is my return on the dollar going to be? So $10,000, get 10% return. So 10,000 times 0.1 equals $1,000. So that's a great year in the stock market. Now, what if I did the same thing? I took that $10,000, but instead put it into real estate. So let's say I buy my first house as a primary residence, and I put 3% down on a purchase price of $300,000. So again, in that case, that would be $9,000. We'll use $10,000 as simple as that. So the average rate of return on home prices over time, I think it's maybe 4 to 7%. It probably is more than that. I should be doing more research on this. But in this example, let's just say it's 3%, just barely out legging the historical inflation rate of around 2.5%. So you buy a house for $300,000 and it appreciates 3% in the first year. What do you get? What kind of return do you get on your initial investment? And when I ask this question, there's a lot of different answers because it's not as straightforward as one might think. As the first example. So you put in $10,000 at your down payment, you buy an asset, a home that's $300,000, and you get that 3%. Well, what do you get? You get $1,300. Well, the actual answer is $9,000. Because the house, you're buying the entire asset. Now you owe a mortgage on it, but you have an asset that now the entire thing is going to be appreciating. So 300,000 times 0.03, and you get $9,000 of appreciation in the first year. And again, this is just a very simple example. So now another simple question: which of those returns is greater? The first one on the stocks, which your return was $1,000, or the second one, which your return was $9,000. Well, obviously the second one is higher, but again, that's a unrealized appreciation because you're talking about $9,000 an asset that you haven't sold yet. So it's just basically it's in thin air in theory, and markets go up and go down. But again, this is for illustration purposes. So you're talking 9 to 1, 9 times return on the real estate versus the stocks. So that's just one of the examples where we try to illustrate the power of real estate. And in no means are we talking about putting all your eggs in the basket. It's good to have a diversified portfolio. But this is the reason, one of the reasons why you talk about people who are very well off and have built a life with the power of choice, have chosen real estate as one of the tools to be able to build wealth. And so what I want to do is I want to take a very simple example, and this is something that I've kind of carved out and simplified based on some real world examples and kind of dumbed it down into some very simple numbers. And this is a story that I've told many times, and something that I've been telling more frequently as I've been getting in front of more audiences talking about real estate. And one of the reasons is that you got more people, that millennial type, that is focused on getting out of the 9 to 5, getting out of the rat race. It's something that, from my own personal perceptions and conversations, I'm hearing more and more of this, trying to get out of the rat race. And so this is becoming more and more common, at least in my daily conversations. And so, this example, I started with somebody on the mortgage side of things. This is about 7 years ago. And this person did not have any savings, had a credit score in the mid 500s, and didn't have a plan, but wanted to buy a house. And so the previous mortgage advisor, didn't really give them any type of instructions. And so, when we were able to talk to them, we helped get his scores up and, kind of set things up to be able to purchase that first house. And for this person, their purchase price range is maybe $150,000 to $200,000. And this is in a middle range market, not your East Coast, not your West Coast, not your Floridas. And so when we dug into the numbers, this is a person making around $40,000 a year, had rent, had a car, had a little bit of student loans, just your basic expenses, cars, car insurance, gas, groceries, things like that. And so when we dug into his budget, there really wasn't very much he could cut. This is a gentleman. Yeah, there was much he could cut. And so when we talk about, saving money, well, this whole channel, again, we've built into 3 different equations: the savings equation, the investment equation, and the results equation. So the investment equation is the savings equation is very simple. Income minus your expenses equals your savings. The investment equation, you have money there at savings, you purchase an asset, you get a rate of return over a period of time, and that's your expected return. The results equation is, hey, you've got all this information out there at your fingertips, trying to figure out what information to use, utilize, and then turn it into action and get results. But it all starts inside of us. Your thoughts literally dictate your results. The way you think, what you think about over and over all day long, whether it be positive or negative, affects how you feel. So if you're thinking about something negative, you're probably going to be feeling something negative. And if you feel something negative, your actions are probably going to be negative, not serving you in the best way. And then over time, your results will follow on the same line. So vice versa, if you're thinking about something positively, something that will serve you, then you're going to feel a certain way that's going to mirror that and feel something positive emotion, which then will typically, result into positive actions, and over time, positive results. So your thoughts literally dictate your results over a period of time. So when we realize that, that's when things get crazy. When you start to realize that we can intentionally put things into our brain that will serve us over a period of time. So back to the savings equation. Income minus your expenses equals your savings. So, there's all kinds of content out there about cutting your expenses, doing a budget, meal preps, cutting your Starbucks coffee. And I've said this many times, and so have others. You're not going to cut your Starbucks coffee to become a millionaire. You're not going to cut your Starbucks coffee to become wealthy, to build a life with the power of choice, to build generational wealth. You can only spend so much time in a day. If you spend time every single day on cutting your expenses, there's only so much of a return you're going to get on your time. And that equation, well, there's another component in it. And the first part of it is income. Well, what if you spend time on generating more income? If you spend time every single day, 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, 1 hour a day, every single day on generating more income, increasing income, generating more income or revenue streams after a week, after a month, after a year, and time goes on, in theory, that could be exponential. There's people out there that are generating all kinds of income and unusual and creative and crazy ways that you may not have ever believed or thought of, but people have done it over and over and over and built habits and processes to be able to do so. And so back to this story for this gentleman, when we dug into his scenario, we start talking about income. Well, what can you do to try to generate some more income? Is it getting a second job in your field? Is it house sitting? Is it dog sitting? Is it mowing grass? I mean, all the different gamuts of things. There's all kinds of things online too that you can do. There's all kinds of resources, websites that show these side hustles. But for this person, they had a passion with electronics and technology, and so what they did is they partnered up with a person they knew that was doing some smart home technology installations on the weekends, and was able to make some extra money on the weekends. And so, first month maybe around $1,000, second month give or take similar, and then so on and so forth. They were able to kind of build a little bit of a niche in history and be able to take that $1,000 to $2,000 a month gross income. So they were able to insert extra income into their equation, and the net of it was saving more money. So I want to back up just a second because I want to dig into some of these details for those of you out there listening. So if you make about $40,000 a year, if you net out taxes and all the other deductions, maybe you're getting about 70% of that. So, $40,000 a year divided by 12 months is a gross of $3,333. If I take 70% of that, netting all your deductions, you're at about $2,330 for your actual cash net receipt from your paychecks. So for this person, and again, this has been a number of years, so I'm just guessing on some of these numbers. So they're just going to be examples. So the rent may have been like $750, car note may have been like $500. So that's $1,250 of your, a couple of those major expenses. And you've got car insurance and gas and groceries and living and all that stuff. And so when all said and done, he was barely able to meet and make ends meet and barely able to save any money. So his savings rate was 0%. So when we add in this extra $1,000 of income, and then again, you take 70% of that, so you're getting a net of $700. If I take $700 and I divide that by that gross income of the 333, and again, this is for example's sake here. So if I take it by that original 333, 700 divided by the first number of 3,333, that's a savings rate of about 21%. Now, this is a little bit skewed because I'm dividing it by the first number before he got the second job, but that was the starting point, right? So if I go ahead and do the math of the 700 divided by the 3,033, but then I add in the $1,000, so that ends up being a savings rate of about 16%, which is still very, very strong. And again, these are numbers that are also skewed in the fact that we're talking about net of your paycheck, and then saving the savings percent as a percentage of your gross, which is before taxes. So the numbers are a little bit skewed. So these are just for pure example sakes. And they're one of the reasons why I want to dig into these percentages, because many people have asked in the last 2 months of this channel being out there on Apple and Spotify and Google and whatever. Well, what is Strive for 25? Where does that even come from? And the 25%, again, it's, hey, if somebody can save 25% of their income, you're going to be on the right path for being able to do some pretty cool things and be able to invest and be able to, have time start working for you instead of against you. And so when someone says to me, hey, I can't save any money, I'm barely making ends meet, that's the case for a lot of people. But that doesn't mean that there's not a way. That doesn't mean that there's not a solution to try to be able to start saving. And even if it's 1% or 2% or 3%, by starting somewhere and having a little bitty success, it matters. Matters because those successes, they compound, and you're building a habit of succeeding. When you succeed over and over and over and over, you want more of it. Those dopamine rushes, they happen, and you want more and more of it. So every little win matters. Every little bitty win matters. When you get knocked to the ground by something, and instead of it knocking you down and making you feel deflated or doubt yourself, and we flip it and reframe it and turn it into, hey, this is just an opportunity for me to be able to get better. It's an opportunity for me to be able to find a way to improve and then come back stronger. Well, that little bit of difference, literally becomes the difference between the best and the rest. The Tom Brady's of the world, the Tiger Woodses of the world back in their heyday. So many others like these people, the mindset, the positivity. Yeah, it sounds maybe weird or fluky. But when you do this every single day and have that positive mindset of taking a negative, turning into a positive, Michael Jordan, being another example, it's an opportunity. When you train your mind to look at every single negative thing and turn it into an opportunity, and you do it over and over and over, you're rewiring your brain to take any negative thing in your life and turning it into a positive. And that's literally what turns the best. It separates them from the rest. So back to the story. Sorry, again, on a tangent here. So this person, they started saving money. They started seeing some successes, and they started getting more confident and believing in themselves. And that started another domino effect of wanting to capture and gain knowledge. And, you talk about real estate, you talk about, books like The Millionaire Next Door and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And, it's taking your mindset and changing it from your passive W-2 worker and turning into this entrepreneurial mindset of, hey, I have control and I want to build a business that, I can take myself and duplicate and have passive income and replicate and not be reliant on another company. That whole mindset. And so, saved up, had enough to buy the first house. For this person, they started at $150,000, and they put down 5%. So that's $7,500 for a down payment. And so they bought that first house, lived in it for a couple of years, and kept reading, gaining knowledge. I always ask this question. If you fast forward the clock a couple of years and life changes, and now you have to decide what to do with that house, you have two options. You can either sell it or you can rent it out and hold it for a period of time. Which of those scenarios do you think you fall in line with? And for this person, clearly this person was on that entrepreneurial mindset. Absolutely, I'm definitely want to turn it into a rental. And so fast forward the clock, saving money, getting better at the job, getting better at their side hustle as well. Saved up and was able to purchase their second home for around $250,000. Again, put 5% down. That's that $12,500 number for down payment, 5% down, and then turning the old one into a rental. And again, there's way more that goes into this entire equation in terms of rental, being a landlord and finding renters and upkeep and all this. So I'm going to keep this very, very simple and high level, just for the sake of the story. And so, this person kept on going, saving more money, getting more promotions, getting better at the job, and saved up money to be able to buy the third house. And this is in year 5, at the end of the 4th year, going into the 5th year. They bought their third home for around $350,000, again turning the old one into a rental property, and again putting 5% down. And so, take the same thing, the same concept forward a couple of years. At the beginning of year 7, bought the 4th house. And so for this example, this is their 4th house that they purchased for this entire example. And so put 5% down, and again turn the old one into rental. So at this point in time, they purchased a little over $1.2 million of real estate, 3 rentals, and now their primary residence. And when you fast forward the clock 30 years total from the first purchase to the end, you have 1 property fully paid off, a couple properties that are getting close to being paid off, and all the while you're having values go up. And again, for our scenario, we use 4% of home price appreciation, which is probably a meager number, conservative number in this environment, given what's been going on in the last couple of years. And then also your renters are paying down your principal of your mortgage every year. So you've got compounding working in both ways, going up with the values going up over a long period of time, and then the mortgage being paid down and being reduced by the rental payments, the renters making payments. And so paying down the mortgage is compounding working the opposite way. And so that difference between the value and the mortgage balance, again, that's called equity. And so as time goes on, values go up and mortgage balance go down, equity is growing. And so you started with $1.25 million of properties in terms of just nominal values. And 5% down on each of these scenarios, that down payment for all those 4 properties totals $60,000. So $60,000 in, 4 properties, 3 rentals. After 30 years, any guess on what that would look like in terms of total value? Well, you do the math on that, and that ends up being over $3 million of property value. So around $3 million net in equity. So literally turning $60,000 of money into over $3 million of net equity, all by buying 4 houses, putting 5% down each time, and having 3 rentals. And so some of the assumptions, again, that I put in here is that your cash flow and expenses all netted to 0, appreciation 4%, mortgage rate in the 6s. And so this is an everyday person who, when I spoke to them initially, had no idea this was possible. Generational wealth was not even on the radar. None of this stuff was even explained to them along their journey, or if it was, they weren't in a frame of mind to receive it. So an everyday person who had no savings and a credit score that wasn't the best literally turned their life upside down in a good way, and now is going to be a multi-millionaire with using real estate as a tool. So again, the reason why we feel it's important to share the story is we want this to be able to show that there is an opportunity for an everyday person to be able to get ahead. One of the coolest things when I spoke in front of a group of realtors a couple weeks back, I did my thing, talked about the process, et cetera, real estate, power, the stair-step method here. This is, again, the stair-step method. And, I approached a couple of people after it, and these are some younger realtors, and just, asked for some feedback. And, the response was something that I didn't expect, but, glad that their response was in this way. But one of the things that was memorable from the response was, oh my goodness, it gave us hope. It gave us hope. And that's exactly the reason we're doing this, is that there is a way to build a life with the power source. There is a way to be able to get ahead. It's not going to be easy. If it were easy, everybody would be doing it. But, again, I say this all the time. They're just like a can of Coke, right? The ingredients are on the side of a can, but it doesn't mean that we can replicate it. The actual formula matters, the way that we do things, order of events, the cadence, timing events, and the ability to do it over and over and over. This is the stuff that is the difference between the best and the rest. So the stair-step method explained, turning $60,000 into over $3 million. So this is something that you're listening to this, and this is something you wanted to hear more about and learn more about, talk through. Maybe you're thinking, shoot, this is not possible. I don't even know where to start, where to begin. Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to help explain further and dig into your scenario. And so this is you, and you're listening to this, and you want help with this stuff, please message us today. You can message us on Instagram. That's probably the best way. And that's strive425_. So STRIVEFOR 25 the number _ I'm on there every single day posting something about mindset, compounding, power of real estate, habits, generating more income. And this podcast right now, we've been talking a lot about side hustles and generating more income, because that's a hot topic right now. With inflation, it is hard to get ahead. And so to turn the scales upside down, finding ways to be able to save money, it's, hey, what we do to generate, especially. So hopefully this message had some value to you. And again, when you hear something inspirational, and when you see something inspirational on Twitter, Instagram, there's a lot of great stuff out there, but what do you do with it? What do you do with that information? Do you, keep scrolling on to the next thing, and the next day it becomes an afterthought? Or is there some actionable item that you can take and actually bring with you the next day and the next day and the next day, and actually the habit on something. It just takes one thing that you can work on for a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it is, and do it over and over and over. That process, the information doesn't change until you actually act on it. The action is the part that actually changes you from the inside out. So again, Joel Farrell here with Strive for 25, talking about the stair step method and the power of real estate. If you have any questions, please message us today on Instagram, strive for 25 _.